Going back to just traditional, let's go bluegill fishing during the post spawn. You know, them areas that are well protected, backwater areas out of the wind, them fish are going to load up. I'm sure you've seen it before. Even as a kid, I've seen it all the time. The bluegill beds would just be everywhere as you go in the shallow water. But a lot of times, literally just off the bluegill beds, if you take your time, you work your way inside these areas, you'll see one or two really big largemouth that are just off the bank, going up there for the right scenario, and they'll jump into the bed, eat them bluegill. Last year we were on Gunnersville. It was pretty crazy. It was like perfect timing with the bluegill deal. I remember when I first got there, I went back in some backwater, and it was a really nice day, real clear. I got back inside of there, and there was just bluegill lined up everywhere. But there was also largemouth literally swimming through their beds everywhere. So like a lot of times in our practice, we get 2.5 days. I pulled in there and I saw the first hour of practice. I spent the entire rest of the practice keying in and marking every single area that I saw bluegill beds. Some of them were vacant. It was a little bit later, but there was a lot of areas that had tons of bluegill. Every single one that had bluegill had giant largemouth all around it. Now, another area that seems to really pop off this time of year too is like riprap areas. A lot of them bluegill will get right against the riprap a lot of times, and they'll tuck in there and they'll spawn super shallow, I mean in the dirt. But same scenario, them largemouth are right there looking at them. If there was a water temp I had to put on this, I don't really think there's a key water temp. I would say it's like the 70s to 80s. In between that zone is when these bluegill really get up there and spawn. Like I said, as soon as you start to notice, if you're on a lake that has a ton of largemouth that spawn up shallow, as soon as you really start to see all the beds. All right guys, just came around to another spot that I marked off the bank here a little bit. Like I said, man, it's a rotation thing that's super important, it seems like, when you're doing this, as far as offshore bluegill or offshore brim fishing. You know, there's a pile of little beds right here I saw next to this boat dock. Throw a few casts up there. I can't stress enough to you guys how important it is, though, to really rotate the spots and rotate the baits. It really seems to make a big difference a lot of times. There's one. It's a nice one. Little bluegill raider. Made a few rotations, came back here into a backwater. There's a bunch of bluegill sitting back there in the pads. Not a giant one, but it's a start. You know, you keep on rotating through a lot of these areas, whether it's offshore for some of them fish, or maybe even if it's, you know, in a backwater like we have right now. I just kept rotating through the spots, rotating through the baits, you know, post spawn, bluegill spawn, Great time of year to catch some really big
Shoot, folks, information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish, shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning.